Welcome back to BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. The playoffs are finally here, and tonight the Bruins take on the Hurricanes in Game 1. In this video, we're going to go over what I think the biggest factors will be in this series, and my predictions. Let's get started. By far the biggest factor in this series will be goaltending. It's already been confirmed that Antti Raanta will be the starter for the Carolina Hurricanes in Game 1, but it doesn't sound like it's going to stay that way through the entire series. Now, it's very important in my mind that the Bruins win as many of the Antti Raanta started games as possible. He's not a total bum, but this will be his first playoff appearance, and he's obviously a lot worse than Freddie Andersen. But even when Andersen comes back, I'm honestly not that concerned. Now, I will give him credit. He's having a fantastic season. He's playing on a much better defensive team than when he was on the Maple Leafs, but the Bruins have had quite a bit of success against Freddie Andersen in the past, and that's why I'm a little less worried as I might be against some other goaltenders. But the Bruins' goaltending situation will also be a factor in this series. Linus Ullmark will be getting the start in Game 1, but I don't think he'll hold that net forever, especially if he starts to struggle. I personally think that Jeremy Swayman has the higher ceiling of the two in terms of a player who'd be able to steal a game for you. But right now, Linus Ullmark is playing better in net, so I'm not surprised to see him get the start. And that's what you're paying him for. And honestly, I love that these two have such a great relationship, so I don't think they would really mind if they go back and forth, and I think the team is pretty comfortable at this point playing in front of either guy. So it's a nice problem that the Bruins have that they have two equally caliber starting goalies, but I do like having a guy who's hot and goes on a deep run. It seems like every year, even when a team has two guys like a Murray and Fleury situation or a Grubauer and Holtby situation, there's always one guy who starts, kind of falters, next guy comes in and gets hot. So I kind of like that Jeremy Swayman will be that next guy because, as I said, I think he has the higher ceiling and an ability to steal you games. So if the Bruins are having goaltending troubles at the start, it's nice to know that we have an equally better guy or potentially a guy who could be even better waiting in the wings. Now let's talk about the next biggest factor in this series that honestly I don't even think people who are picking Carolina in this series are talking enough about. And that's the D-cores. Jacob Slavin is an absolute stud on the back end for them both ways. Brett Pesce, kind of a similar player where he helps out at both ends of the ice. I absolutely love Brady Shea. I've wanted him to be a Bruin for a very long time. He's another underrated player. Tony DeAngelo, we all kind of hate him off the ice, but you don't find a much better power play quarterback and offensive defenseman than him, and even he's a guy who flies under the radar with all the points he puts up. Then you have guys like Ian Cole, who's kind of a steady Eddie. You have an Ethan Bear, who I think is getting scratched tonight. And you have a guy like Smith, who brings some mean and nasty to his game. And that D-core is pretty legit. Now, the Bruins might have the higher-end defensemen in guys like Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm, but after that, it gets scary. And you guys know my thoughts on the Bruins D-core. I think it's by far their biggest weakness. And that will once again be their biggest weakness in this series. If the Bruins have any injuries to anyone in the top four, I would go ahead and say it's over. Having guys like Derek Forbort and Conor Clifton in your lineup already when you're fully healthy honestly makes me sick because I think those guys are terrible. I don't love Mike Riley, and he's kind of struggled too, but I'd much rather see him in this series because at least he can skate and kind of help you out both ways, and I think you're going to need that against the Hurricanes. So I would like to see Forbort come out, Riley come in at some point, but it is scary how little depth the Bruins have on that back end, and with the way that guys like Grzelcyk and Carlo have played this season where they haven't really been at their ceiling, I must admit I am concerned about the back end. The next biggest factor might make some of you laugh, but I really do believe that the Bruins will have no problem scoring in this series. Now, that's going to make you laugh because if you look at this regular season, it wasn't even close between the two teams. The Bruins got absolutely smoked by the Hurricanes. But honestly, I don't really care. The playoffs are totally different. The Bruins had some weird factors in those games, like Tuukka Rask playing in one of the games. It's kind of hard to keep playing in a regular season game when you're getting dominated like they were. Now, the Hurricanes were all over them, and they're a very good team. In fact, they're the same team they were then, so don't be surprised if the Hurricanes score some goals as well. But I am still very confident in the Bruins offense, and I think it's one of their biggest strengths coming into the series. Now, one of the biggest things we all know in playoffs is that the whistles go away. Now, the penalty kill for the Hurricanes is one of the best in the league, and the Bruins have to be really careful putting them on the power play as well because they're equally as dangerous on the power play. But I will say that I do have a lot of confidence in the Bruins power play, even though it's struggled as of late. I don't know, I just have this feeling about the high-end talent of the Bruins. Having a guy like Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak in a playoff game, I feel like they just bring that level up and they can get you a big goal at any moment. I also feel that way about some of the Bruins' depth guys. You have a guy like Taylor Hall. He could go off and be MVP Taylor Hall at any moment. A guy like Charlie Coyle is built for the playoffs. A guy like Craig Smith, Jake DeBrusk, those are guys who play hard, play with energy, play fast, and aren't afraid to shoot the puck and could score some big goals. Even a guy like Nick Foligno, who only managed to put in a couple pucks for the Bruins this season, that's a veteran who's been around the game for a long time, knows how to play some playoff hockey, could get to the front of the net and tip in a big goal for you that helps you win the game. Now, the Hurricanes have some good depth up front as well, but I just don't think the high-end talent of the Hurricanes matches up with the high-end talent of the Bruins when it comes to forwards. Just quickly comparing the forward groups, I don't think enough NHL fans are admitting that they would rather have the Bruins forwards over the Hurricanes forwards if you were drafting the series. Looking at a guy like Sebastian Aho, who's probably the best player up front for the Hurricanes, he is definitely dangerous. He's still super young and only getting better, but at this point, I'd rather have Brad Marchand. Marchand has a bit more of that fight in his game, a little bit more swagger, and a bit more of a clutch factor at this point in his career. Looking at the second best player, Andrei Svechnikov, I had him on my fantasy team. The kid is legit. He could score 50 at some point. But right now, I think David Pastrnak is better, and I'd rather have him in this series. Looking at a guy like Patrice Bergeron, I guess that's the Bruins' third best player. It could really be any of those three for our best player, though. You compare him to a guy like a Vincent Trocheck or a Teuvo Teravainen, I think we're all taking Bergeron. Then you even look at a guy like Taylor Hall, who I would rather have than a guy like a Trocheck or a Domi or a Staal. I would even compare the younger guys like Jake DeBrusk and Seth Jarvis. Those are two kind of X-factor players. Jarvis is getting better and better for the Hurricanes, but Jake DeBrusk is playing the best hockey he's ever played for the Bruins right now. And as I said, you have guys like Coyle and Smith and Foligno, so I don't hate the Bruins' depth, and I don't think it's getting enough credit, even from the people who are still going to pick the Hurricanes in this series. Now let's get into my prediction, and before you call me a total Bruins homer, just know that I filled out my bracket, and unfortunately, folks, I don't think it's the Bruins' year, so keep that in mind. But I do have the Bruins beating the Hurricanes in this series in 6 games. I think it's going to be a great battle, a fun, energetic, high-paced, high-scoring series between these two teams, and I know that the Hurricanes are an up-and-coming team, but I think the Bruins have their number like they have for the past couple of playoff meetings, and I think they will once again come out on top. Even though I'm not so sure it's their year, let's hope that this series win is just the start to a great run all the way to Lord Stanley's Cup. So let me know your thoughts. Who do you think will win this series and why? Down below in the comments. Also, feel free to leave some X-Factor players and your thoughts on my takes. Leave all that down below. If you enjoyed this video and you are pumped for the playoffs, make sure to give this video a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.